if you're interested. All right. On to Fred. We did all the hellos and introductions, and now you're right on time.
Okay, good. Um, Sorry for all the computer mess ups. My computer is just a disaster. Hi, everyone. It seems like we have a bunch of people from a bunch of different places, and I can't tell just by looking what instruments everyone has. But we'll figure this out as we come along. Can you all hear that keyboard? That's our sound check. Excellent. Um, so is that my echo? That's so funny. Okay, I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna have like a pretty intensive session. Does everyone here? Is everyone here an instrumentalist of some sort? Yes. Anyone
Everyone but
here?
one.
Okay, who's
Someone is here to
not?
watch.
Okay, so everyone's an instrumentalist of some sort, except for one person, and um, it's always hard as a teacher, if we have people at very large discrepancy of ability, not ability, because ability is what we have. We all have great ability, but of learning. So forgive me if some things are too fast or some things are too slow. I don't know you well enough to find the right middle ground, so I'll try to both move quickly and stay on things.
Frank,
So
I'm sorry. I really have to interrupt for 1 second. Just as a heads up, I am recording this, so if someone has a problem with their face appearing in a video, feel free to shut off your video. That's
okay,
all. Go on.
good, no problem. And I see most of you are muted, which is good. Um, we will, of course, actually not even at the end, at many points along the way, stop for questions and unmuting ourselves. But we are going to do a lot of sort of playing, not together, but individually. Let me just tell you the basic thing I would love to try to cover in this one very intensive class. And it's an approach that I have. Honestly, you can use it for any kind of music. But in this case, obviously, we're going to focus on klezmer. And it's sort of a simple approach which says learn the melody of a song that we're playing, learn the harmony, learn the form, the structure, kind of memorize those three things, internalize them, and then whether you're playing jazz or high life or klezmer or Balkan music or even, people, we could have a nice argument about this, even certain classical music, you can be totally free in the music, in your performance with as a soloist or with a group to play, to be inside the music. You can always be the lead, you can accompany, you can do all sorts of things. You can dance between all the roles as long as you know the melody, the harmony, and the structure. And I guess we could say the rhythm also. Gesundheit, Zoe. That was really funny. I saw you sneeze, but I couldn't hear anything. It was kind of cute. um, so that in a nutshell is the basic class. I mean, we might get to other things, but it sounds simple, and in a way, it's simple. But it's as with everything, the devil is in the details. So, okay, let's just have our first pause as we're just getting started. Does anyone have any question about what it is I'm going to try to do? I just want to make sure I'm bringing everyone along with me. I know I haven't taught anything yet, but just in general, any question about this idea? No. Good. Yes. No.
I mean, will you be taking us through methods on how to learn these three
Yes.
components? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. I just want to make sure conceptually everyone got it. Sure. It's not a big deal. Okay. Let's start the first thing. The first prerequisite knowledge, and this is where we start getting to people having different levels of experience. I guess if I wanted to be really, really systematic, I'd have to say the first thing is the knowledge of chords. Now, this being a klezmer class, we can start with triads. We don't need seventh chords. Does everyone know the four basic triads in Western music theory? Can someone tell us the four, unmute yourself and tell us the four basic triads in Western music? Yes, no. Someone want to jump in? No, Lori Wolf. What are the four triads?
Major, minor, diminished, and augmented.
Major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Okay, if anyone doesn't know this stuff, you better take notes. We're going to move somewhat fast. Does everyone at least theoretically knows what these four chords are? You've heard of them, I hope. Nod your heads, make some movements so that I'm with you. Okay. So, for those of you who aren't keyboard players or piano players or guitar players, I really recommend that if you have any access to a keyboard, not today, but learn how to play these four triads, major, minor, augmented, and diminished, and on each of the notes, all 12 notes. Just sit down on a keyboard and C major, C minor, C augmented, C diminished, etc. D flat, D. It's a good tool. Okay, we're not going to do that now, but I would like to start. And so this is where you'll all need your instruments. Now, again, if it's not about easy or hard, it's more like some of you have done this already and you've got it, and others of you haven't done it yet. And take a note that you're not going to learn this in this class, but you know that this is what you should practice because it'll make you a better musician. You should know how to play all four of these triads on every note in your instrument. So let's start on a concert C, whatever note that's a D for you B flat instruments, that's an A for you E flat instruments. Everyone play a concert C, right? You all good? Everyone playing a C? Now the major triad. I'm gonna do the random thing. I'm just going down my screen. Emily Farrell, what are the notes of a C major triad? Unmute yourself and tell us the notes of a C. If you don't know, that's okay.
C-E-G.
C-E-G.
C-E-G. Okay, very good. And for you B flat people, D, F sharp, A. For you E flat people, A, C sharp, E. Just arpeggiate, listen to me, just arpeggiate in any range a C triad. And in fact, try to cover all the range of your instrument. So for me, the trumpet, its lowest note is a concert E. So play C major triad, right? Just play, just get your fingers, get your, whatever it is, get the C major triad going, okay? Got it? If this is a little bit beyond you because you haven't done it, take a note that this is something you should do. Then the next step, and as Alex was saying, so what I'm going to do is teach a system step by step. If you're already at step 5 of it, you can just pick up from there. So the next thing you want to do is, and we won't have time to do it now, but we can do it kind of quickly. You play the C major triad, the D flat major triad, the D major triad, the E flat. In other words, go up chromatically. So for example, it might be something like this. You get the idea? Let's just try it all together. Some of you, this is easy. Some of you, it's totally ridiculously hard. And you'll get it eventually, if not right now. 1, 2, 3. There's a million ways to practice that. That's one of them. The idea, though, is your goal, and we're not going to, for those who haven't worked this way before, I just say take notes and you can work on it. All it takes is time. This is not like difficult. It just takes time. You spend time and you might say, I'm going to learn my major. I'm going to spend for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to learn my major chords or something. Okay. So, the next thing you would do is the exact same thing with the minor triads. Let's see, who's holding? Oh, Sean McCarthy, you're holding a tenor saxophone?
Correct, yes.
Indeed. And what are the notes, what I'm calling a C minor chord, which you would call a D minor chord? What are the notes of that there D minor triad?
C, E flat, and G, or D, F, and A on the B flat
There
instruments.
you go. It's got a minor third instead of a major third. So let's just for the sake of doing it. Okay, this time, instead of going root 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, root third, fifth, third, root, we're going to do our arpeggios minor slightly differently in a way that will help us with klezmer. We're going to play the root note. Root, third, go down to the fifth, third, root. Just try that, everyone. And if this sounds to you like what a trombonist tends to do in klezmer, you're absolutely correct. Now, for those of you playing accordion, I know I saw at least one accordionist. The trick to do is in your left hand, or in your left hand, be doing your usual, root and chord, root fifth and chord, and then do the arpeggios in your right hand. So arpeggios in the right hand, and the usual left hand, boom, chick, boom. Let's just do pretty quickly the same exercise. Now we're doing minor chords. We're using this pattern: root, third, fifth, third, root, and we're going to go from concert C. We're going to go up the octave again. And again, for those of you who this is way beyond your experience, just make sure you understand in theory and take notes so that you know how to practice it later. 1 and 2, and here we go. G, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, A flat, A, B flat, B, and C. So for everyone at your own level, you can practice this. You can practice different patterns of the triads. You can go, just different patterns. You can go faster, you can go slower, but for everyone, just get used to having these arpeggios as part of your repertoire. And the thing I was doing where I was saying the name of it, it doesn't hurt because then you're connecting sort of the label with the actual chord itself. Okay, so that's our first little warm-up exercise. Someone who here has like sort of never really done this and is a little bit stuck, they can't do that yet. Just give me someone who's kind of hasn't worked on this before. Okay, Mel. So for example, all I care about, Do you understand it in theory? Good. If anyone doesn't understand it in theory, at the next break, we'll talk a little more. But just make sure it only takes time. There's no big mystery in this stuff. It just takes, you just work it out. You work it out slowly. And another thing my teacher taught me, which always helps, is if you're working on this and certain things are easy, like, oh, I have no problem with D, but F sharp kills me, just practice, work on the ones that are hard for you. You know, if it's easy, skip
It's
it.
easier to work on the easy ones, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Okay, so those are triads. We're not going to worry about the diminished and the augmented just because, frankly, they don't come up that much in klezmer music, and because theoretically, if you're interested, you know how to work on it now. Okay. So, next step. Let's look at a piece of klezmer music. My computer freaked out the last time I tried to do this, so I'm going to try again. Let's see, Lori, in the chat window, did you get the Bugich tune I just wrote out, Lori? And is it in the chat window for people? And how many versions did you get? Did you get the C version, the B flat, the E flat?
I
That's
have
where
the B flat and the C. I don't have an E flat, but is anyone on
I'm
tenor?
gonna,
I mean on alto
I,
here?
I'm going to try. Does anyone need an E flat version of it? If not, we're going to save. That'll make it. Okay, great.
Is there any way it could be saved onto the Google Drive? Because some of us have
You know
not
what?
been able.
Yeah, I'll work that out later because I'll have to transfer all the files over. Don't worry. It's
Well,
I can't even open it to print it.
Really,
Oh.
you can't open the chat window?
What's that, Mel?
Who was
No.
that?
It was me.
I'll email it to you. Okay.
Okay, and I can't open it. That's for some reason I can only open it off the Google Drive.
Oh my God! But
This is-
everyone
It
else.
is Google Drive.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
No, the one I picked up, the one I got from the chat. That's why I want it on Google Drive. When I get it on chat, for some reason, it's not opening on my computer, and people with phones and iPads couldn't either.
Let me just. How about I'll send it to you in a message on Facebook. Would that work for you?
I'll try. I don't know.
Okay, let's give it a try. Go on, Frank.
Well, I need everyone to have the music in some form. So, is there anyone else who's stuck? I don't want to, because I don't want to lose people on this. Is there anyone else who's stuck, like doesn't have this chart in front of them?
Yeah, it doesn't open up for me either. I get an error when I try to open it. So.
Okay.
No, is it? I could share it on my screen. It'll just be up there.
Yeah, I could. Oh yeah. You want to?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. Let's see if that works.
I'm kind of scared of your computer exploding again, so maybe I'll.
I know, but let me. Come on, we always live dangerously. Of course, Oh, maybe I should have the C and the B flat version. I don't know.
The C seems to open, but the B flat, I get an error when I try and open it.
Yikes. Okay. Frank, keep doing
Yeah?
what you do, and I'll do the tech. Okay.
Say that again.
Just keep doing what you do, and I'll work out the tech.
Okay, sure. So, for those who have this thing, oh yeah, and you know what? This is in the Google Drive, Mel.
It is?
It says Bugich Bulgar, and it is in the Drive. I'm looking at it right now. In the Google Drive, but it's a concert version, and my computer's starting to do funky things, and I don't want to fuck up this whole class.
Okay.
Okay.
I printed everything in the Google Drive.
Oh well. Okay.
Well, okay. So Mel, I'm on it. Don't worry. I'm on it.
Okay.
Don't sweat
Okay.
it.
Is anyone else like not finding a chart at all?
Guys, I'll make sure you all have the chart in the next 5 minutes. Okay. No sweat.
Okay, Laura, you're a genius. Thank you. And if it helps anyone, I just put the B flat one in the chat window again. I don't know if that works for anyone. You can try, yes, no. The B flat one. Okay. So let me start talking while we're trying to open this up so that we don't totally get lost in kind of Zoom problems here. This is a lovely song. It's got 4 sections, which is nice. It's different than 3 sections. It's in D Phragish. Is there anyone here in this class who is not 100% clear on what D Phragish is? Don't be shy. Is there even one person who's not even 100% clear on? Good. Thank you. Okay. Let's take a sidetrack from this tune for a moment. If you can go back to the Google Drive, let's look at what D Phragish is. Click on number 1, Klezmer Modes Part 1. Let's just look at Klezmer Modes Part 1, and let's talk about D Phragish. D Phragish is a mode and a scale, or as a teacher of mine says, modes contain scales. The scale is this one written here. We can all try to play it together. This is concert. It's the scale of a good number of our klezmer tunes. We'll play it one note at a time. Transpose it if you can. It's E Phragish for you B-flat instruments. Here we go. That's Phragish. We all know the sound of it. It is very familiar to us. Is everyone looking in the Google Drive at the document called Klezmer Modes and Harmony? So if you look at the third bar, I talked about what are the important chords for klezmer harmonization of Phragish.
I'm sorry to interrupt with technical problems again. So I had no problems just getting to that one Bulgar. That's where the link points to, but I don't see a folder that would contain anything else. So
Sorry, Nico.
what's that?
What is it, Nico?
Yeah,
Okay, hold on. Try this. Try this. I just try clicking on. Oh, someone else did it also.
Okay.
You can try. Well, try the clicking on the folder
Okay.
that I just sent.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm good now. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So let's look at this sheet for a minute, and then we'll bring it back to the tune. What I show you in the first 2 bars. Mute yourself, please, Mr. Accordion, or Ms. Accordion, or person with accordion. Just mute yourself. So the first 2 bars is more for theory people, but it's the idea, excuse me, of diatonic triads. Diatonic means very simply the notes that are in the scale. And what I did is I played the triad that goes with each note in the scale of Phragish. So just for what it's worth, we're not going to spend time on this. You have a D major, an E flat major, an F sharp diminished, G minor, A diminished, B flat augmented, C minor, and D. Now, I'm not going to spend time on this because I'll tell you the truth. If we were giving an intensive course in just arranging, this would be helpful. But in terms of practically playing klezmer, you don't need to know this. What you do need to know more is what's in the next 3 bars. The primary 3 chords, I'm going to take some water, excuse me for a second. The primary 3 notes, 3 chords in Phragish are the dominant chord, which is 1. No, the tonic chord, sorry. The tonic chord, which is the 1 chord, which is D major. And everyone can, with yourselves muted, can just do a little, play D major or E major, whatever it is on your instrument. You can play along with me while I'm talking a little bit. And then the subdominant, the 4 chord, which is G minor. Then what Western theory would call the dominant chord, excuse me, is the 7 minor, the C minor, which goes back to D. And this is a little melody from a klezmer tune. Okay, those 3 chords. Let's stop and work with those 3 chords for a few moments, because I got to tell you, you can get through half of every Frege tune with just those 3 chords. So even though it's not transposed, for you B-flat people, it's just 3 chords. Think of it as E major, A minor, and D minor. Okay, this is where I need you to put your brains on. For those of you who aren't reading because you can't transpose, just memorize E major, A minor, D minor, E major. For those of you reading, it's right there: D major, G minor, C minor, D. So here's how to go back to this whole thing about the 3, the 4-step actually method of playing a song. Let's make believe that those 4 measures were an entire klezmer song. That's the whole song. It's a very short little klezmer song. It goes like this. Right? Let's make believe that's the whole song. Let's all play our big klezmer song, our 4-measure klezmer song. For people like a guitar and everything, play the melody for now. 1, 2, here we go. If you're someone like, I'm looking at Beth at the moment. Beth, are you singing? Are you playing a keyboard that I can't see, or are you singing?
I'm singing, imagining, and fingering. Is that okay?
Oh, that's perfect. I love doing that. The fingering while you sing is a great technique.
Great,
okay.
Thank you.
So everyone play that, and then as soon as you can, close your eyes and play our little 4-bar melody from, let's see how fast you can memorize that 4-bar melody. So play it over and over until you internalize the melody. This is the first step in the process, internalizing a melody. In fact, you know what? Let's all sing it. I'm sorry. 1, 2, ready. Dun, da, 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 da. Oh, mute yourself. Mute yourself. Mute yourself. One, two, ready, go. Da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Da 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 da. Now play it on your instrument. Okay? So, even if it was a much longer song, like the Bugich tune that hopefully we'll look at, the process is the same. Play it, sing it, play a phrase, try to play it without the music, and sing it some more, walk around till you can sing the whole thing without looking at the music, then get it on your instrument. You internalize the melody. Everyone understands, even if you haven't done it yet, step 1, learn the melody, okay? And if you want to get a little tricky, which I always do, you can try playing the melody to any song in all 12 keys. Just because why the heck not? So, again, here's the same process as we did on the arpeggios. Let's just go. This will be fun for some of you and frustrating for others, but as long as you understand the technique, you can do it at your own pace later. Let's take this little 4-bar phrase and play it once and then up a half step, up a half step. Here we go, starting in D concert, and then we're going to go through all 12 keys. 1, 2, E flat. E. F. F sharp. G. A flat. You notice it starts on the third of the chord, so it's really kind of tricky. A flat, you start on a C. 1, 2, A. B flat, you can jump down an octave. B. C. Yeah, C sharp, D flat. And back to D. So again, that I'm not hearing you. I'm sure that was a bit of a like a cacophonic disaster. But as long as you understand that you do it at your own pace, and it's a great way to learn. And of course, when you get back to the original key, it feels so good. It's so much easier. Okay, so just mark.
Are you in cahoots with other professionals? I had a lesson with Kurt Bjorling a couple of days ago, and he pulled the same stunt on me.
You know what? I'm not, but you bring up a good point, which is I'm always thrilled when when I sit in on a class or a lecture by one of my colleagues or something, and I hear them teaching the same thing that I teach. I'm like, yeah, we all figured it out. No, it's not that we're in cahoots. It's that the more you dive into this, you figure it out, that this is what you need to know.
What he had me do, I learned one, and then he had me go all over the damn horn. I was pulling my hair. So this time it went pretty well, actually.
Yeah, well, that's because it's the second time. And for those of you who it's the fifth time. Now, what I'm not talking about now, and, maybe towards the end of the class, we can come back. I'm not talking about style or how to play with a melody in the klezmer style. That's another lecture or lesson. And we can come back to that a little later, but I want to stick on my basic plan. So, okay. So you're following me now. We've kind of, and I think by now we all probably know this. Da 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 da, da 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 da. And we have a sense of these chords. Now here's the next step. So the first step, learn the melody, sing it, play it in every key, blah, blah, blah. That's step one. Step two, the chords. There's a lot of ways of practicing a chord progression. In our case, it's a very simple 4-bar chord progression, and if you look at it, it's even easier than that. It's actually just a 2-bar chord progression that repeats itself. You know, as we learn longer songs, there's a lot more. This is a very simple one, but the technique is always the same. So let me show you a couple of different techniques. You can do them all at different points. One way is to just play quarter notes. Let's say this is our quarter note. Dun, 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 dun. Just play the root of every chord in time. So I'm going to play D, D, G, G, C, C, D, 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 G, G, C, C, D. Or for you B flats, E, E, A, A, D, D, E. Let's all do that. We're just playing quarter notes, the root of each chord. 1, 2, Right? Any questions? I want to keep on moving forward on this. The next exercise, same exact thing. Play the thirds of every chord. Let's see. Let me bother someone here who I don't know. Hjardarson, are you there, or did you leave? I just see. Are you there? Unmute yourself for a minute. I don't know. I haven't met you. I'm just randomly calling on you. Don't let me down.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what instrument are you holding? Okay, good. So what are the thirds of these 4 chords? You say the names?
That's an F sharp
Yep.
and a B flat
B flat. Yep.
and E flat.
E flat and F sharp. So now, thank you very much. Well done. Mute yourself. Now we're going to do the same exercise on the thirds of the chord. 1, 2. Right? We did the roots, now with thirds. And what are we going to do next? Oh, don't you know the answer to this? Yes, you all do. Next, we're going to do the fifth. Adina, what are the fifth? Unmute yourself and tell us what are the fifths of these 3 chords here.
The fifth of D is A. The fifth of G minor is D. And the fifth of C minor is G.
So we're going to go A, D, D, G, G, A. Okay, mute yourself. Here we go. Here we go. So 1, 2. Okay, this is all very basic because we're only dealing with 3 chords and a 4-bar phrase. But if you have a longer piece of music, it's going to take you a little longer to go through the whole thing, playing the roots, playing the thirds, playing the fifths. By the way, I was listening to a lecture by Freddie Hubbard, the great jazz trumpet player, may his soul rest in peace. And he spoke about when he would learn to play any jazz standard, he would go through the whole tune, and he would include the 7th and the 9th, just play all the roots of the chords, all the thirds of the chords, all the fifths of the chords, all the 7ths of the chords, all the 9ths of the chords. So as I said at the beginning, this technique is not particular to klezmer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to what we were doing much earlier when I just introduced the idea of chords and we did arpeggiations. And here's our pattern. We're going to use the one we used before. Root, root, third, fifth, third, bum, 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 bum. D, F sharp, A, F sharp, or for you B flat people, E, G sharp, B, G sharp, right? But we're going to use that pattern for each of the chords in this melody, in this song. Let me play it once. I think you'll get it very simply. 3 and 4. Right? Everyone understand theoretically? Try it nice and slowly. 1 and 2 and nice and slowly. Yum bum 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 dun dum yum bum 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 bum. Right? You can also do now that's just one pattern just to show you the ways you can do an arpeggiation up. Or you could do it down. Or you could do it, let's do up and then down. Let's try that. We'll go up and then down. 1 and 2 and here we go. Boom. Okay, now here's what I would say. What are we doing? What are we doing now? We're learning, we're kind of playing music. You notice how it almost sounds like music. It's not quite music yet, but it almost sounds like music. It almost sounds like a Klezmer song. You know what I mean? We're approaching it sounding like. Try to, in the same way that I asked us to memorize the melody, let's just all sing the melody. Just remember it. Don't even read it. 1, 2, ready. Yum bum ba yum ba da 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 da. Na yum da 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 da. The same way, I want you all, when you're trying this approach, to internalize the chords absent of the melody. And it doesn't even hurt. You can say D, G minor, C minor, D. So here's what I'd like us to do. Let's I want everyone to do this, and then I'm going to call on some people. I don't want to embarrass anyone, so you can say no, but here's what we're going to do. Everyone is in your own little world right now. We're all muted. I want you all to imagine a tempo. If you had a metronome, metronomes are great. Boom, boom. Here's our metronome. Let's say it's nice and medium tempo. I want you to just keep the rhythmic pattern. This, by the way, we're starting on step 3, which is, I said, the form, memorizing the form. I said there were 3 things: the melody, the harmony, and the form. 4th one being rhythm. The form of this is very simple. It's a 4-bar song. The melody is almost the same, except the end of the first 2 bars goes up, and the end of the second 4 goes down, but the melody is pretty much the same. And the chords are the same over and over. D, G minor, C minor, D, and just get that in your head. So now I'm just reviewing. We've done 4 or 5 exercises. We've done playing the roots, We've done the thirds. We've done the fifths. We've done on arpeggiation root third. It's what we used to call it, what, the Picardy? No, not Picardy. The Arcadi bass. That was a term from music theory. In any case. We've done that one. And we've done the arpeggios up and down. Let's, everyone in your own world, just cycle these 4 bars, these 3 chords, this pattern in time. Don't lose the time. Don't lose the fact that it's 2 beats each chord. This is maybe the core of the whole lesson here. Start by playing the melody, then play the chords, come back to the melody, keep the structure. So you're kind of improvising in a very limited structure, and you're only, so far, we're not adding scales, we're not adding fancy stuff. We're playing the melody or we're playing chords. So let me I'll do it for about a minute, and then I'll let you all loose for a few minutes to mess around, and then maybe I'll call on some volunteers to demonstrate what they've done. Give me a minute, just listen. Here's me doing the exercise. 3 and da da. 1, 2, 3. You understand? You could hear that I was keeping the structure very literally. Now, you can, if you've never done this before, you can do it a little slower. So everyone in your own world, try to keep tempo and keep form, and just try to play the chords arpeggiated in different ways. Have at it, and then I'll cut you off in about 2 or 3 minutes, and maybe someone will demonstrate. Okay. All right. Obviously, you can do this all day, and obviously you can do it in all 12 keys. But let's just hear someone. Okay. Alexander, I haven't called on you today. Let's hear you.
Okay.
Here we go. Hold on. Okay, you're being very musical.
Okay.
Now I want you to be a little less music and more literal. Make sure you really change. You put the E minor instead of the. So be very disciplined.
Okay.
Okay. Mute yourself because we're getting a beautiful echo. Okay. I mean, very nice musically, and it leads me to wanting to talk about scalar connecting tones. But the other thing, to make this a progressive exercise, you already had it good and you sounded very lovely, but be aware of what you're doing and push yourself. So you were almost always starting on the roots, which is perfectly fine, but force yourself maybe to always push yourself to the next thing. So instead of going, you could go. I was consciously telling myself, make the chord change, but not on the root. So you can push yourself. Someone else willing to be a little bit of a victim here? Hi, Zoe. I don't know that we know each other. You willing to subject yourself?
Sure.
Sure, thank you. Okay, again, same thing I want to say to, you're not done yet, we're not done with you yet. Same thing I want to say, I was saying to Alex, you're making beautiful music and beautiful klezmer music, and it's nice, but it felt a little more like melodic variations, almost like you were improvising, and it was great. But now I want you to be a little more didactic for a minute. Make a little less music, and just think less about like playing scalar, you know what I mean? Scalar notes in the scale, and think more arpeggio. Think more, so we're really playing the chord notes and not the connecting tones for a minute. It's going to be, trust me, it's going to sound less interesting than what you just did, but we're just being pedagogic here.
Okay, so something like that?
Yes, now, exactly. Now, here's the, okay, I'll come back to you in 1 second. Let me give a little teaching moment, and then I'll come back to you on it. I said that the fourth thing of it was rhythms. Now, this is kind of a Bulgar, and now we have to think like our trombone player, who I don't know if he's still here. I saw him before. Maybe he split. In any case, what are some, or like a drummer. Actually, Laurie's playing a guitar, but this is where we want to learn basically what are some really basic klezmer Bulgar rhythms. Certainly, yut, dat, da, yut, dat, dat. Eighth notes are very klezmer, but you might have yut, da, 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 yut, da, 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 da. Or you might have dun, di, da, da, di, da, da, di, da, di, da, da. Yun da da dun da 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 dun da da dun da 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 dee da 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 dun dun da 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 dee dun dun da da dun da dun dun da. So the idea would be to play arpeggios using klezmer rhythms, Bulgar rhythms. To And do you notice I actually, Zoe and everyone, I actually have to fight myself not to play the connecting notes, not to go. You know what I mean? Not to, just as an exercise to only play the arpeggio notes. Try it again, Zoe, and try to think of these different rhythms. And Emily, you got to try. I'm going to come to you next because this is such a trombone thing. So I'm giving you a warning in advance. Let's hear you do a little bit this. And also, Zoe, you're a violinist. This comes in very handy when you're playing what they call seconde, the accompanying violin stuff. And so we didn't talk about it because I'm a trumpet player. I can't play two notes at once, but you can play double stops, right? So you can do another exercise for accordionists, guitarists, violinists, cellists, is to play the chords in rhythm. And I would definitely be doing that. If I were you, I would be going. So can you do that? Let's hear some rhythm violin, Zoe Santo. Are you lost?
What was the rhythm you were doing again?
Let's try yun da da dun dun da 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 dun dun yun da da. Everyone sing that yun da da dun da 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 dun. 1 and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 and yun. No. Stop. Stop making music. We're doing an exercise. No scales. Just play the chords.
Okay.
You dun da da dun dun and then switch chords, you know? You don't even have to play different notes. You can play can you play two notes of a chord, an A and a D or a D and an F sharp, or can you do a double stop?
Yes.
Let's hear something like that.
I'm feeling very on the spot. Can we go?
Okay, don't worry about it. Emily, do you want to show us? But Zoe, do you know what to practice? It's not about being on the spot, as long as you know what to work on without us all staring at you.
Yeah, and it's something I really need to work on.
Excellent. That's I think the best we can do in an hour and a half masterclass is to leave you with a ton of stuff to work on, not like, oh, I improved so much. It's more like, I hope if you know what to work on, that's what counts. So yes, try these rhythms using the chords over the form. This is the entire class. The rhythm, the chords, the form. So Emily, can you sort of do a little of that? Let's hear.
Sure.
Okay, now push yourself here. That was great, by the way. Try it like you didn't do any arpeggios down. Keep on saying, what other patterns can I do? And mix it up a little bit with the melody. Dun 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 bum 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 bum. So make it like it's fun. You know, like you're playing a solo piece and people are dancing to you. Okay? Go. You're not on the spot. You're not on the spot. We're all enjoying this. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the point. Notice your habits and intellectually think of other things. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually sit down and, because I'm old, I actually write with pencil and paper, but you can do it on a computer, whatever. Write different patterns of arpeggiation and then practice the thing you wrote in other words, to push you wherever we are, beginner, advanced, intermediate, wherever we are, we can always push beyond it. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you have to learn how to get yourself out of your habits. First, you have to get into the habits, then you have to get yourself past it. Okay, we're doing really good. I want to stop for a second and just take questions just trust that at the end I'll open up time for any questions about anything we covered or not. But for now, does anyone have any questions or comments just so far on this kind of technical approach to our little 4-bar klezmer tune of how to study the melody, study the rhythm, study the arpeggiations? Questions or comments about it? Nothing?
Frank?
Yes.
Yeah, I know when I'm playing, and I'm trying to be didactic, as you said,
Yeah.
but with those few notes in that structure, I find if I don't think about it, stuff starts creeping in. And I keep going up, beyond, and below.
Mel,
and it sounds musical, but
okay.
Any tricks to stay as if staying right on the beat?
Yeah,
it's hard to stay disciplined.
I love you. I mean, yes, he has hit exactly, the crux of the matter, and you articulate perfectly well. How many of you have ever tried meditating in one form or another? I've tried. I don't know that I'm successful at it. Have you ever tried meditating, Mel? And the idea that
I try. I do something I call quiet time.
Yeah.
Every day, half an hour, just clear my head.
But if you try meditating in any system, what happens for at least everyone I know, and certainly
stuff creeps in.
Stuff creeps in. So, and the trick is you're always told by the teachers, just don't judge yourself. Just go back.
Go back.
Just keep on going back. So yes. So it's like, oh, I played some interesting notes. No, just go back and don't look. But the trick, and this is where it's fun. The real trick is to go back. Oh, I started playing scales. I started playing more musical things. I started using my kind of ear and instinct and finger habits as opposed to the technical thing I'm supposed to be working on. Okay, I'm going to go back. But to go back without losing time or structure. That's the thing. So
the frustrating part is that what we're trying to achieve is a musicality. What I'm trying to achieve is a musicality in the klezmer, and it's sounding right. So I'm taking this structure and this rhythm that you're telling us, and I'm like, hey, that's good. And my instinct is to just go with it. So it's really difficult to do what you just said, to come back to.
Okay, here's another solution. I always believe that for any problem, there's probably a dozen solutions. And it's like, if one doesn't work, find another one. Here's another solution. Write out, literally write out, again, whatever writing out means for any of you, or sing, or whatever. Make your own exercise. And say to yourself, in exactly the way I said to you, okay, first we're going to do arpeggio up and down. Right? And then we went through the thing. Okay, I'm going to do it fast. Then I said try root third, fifth third. Make up your own exercise,
With the same notes.
Yeah, with
the same notes, but do them differently.
Yeah, so actually make it that you're not improvising, you're not following your ears, but are any of you into jazz?
That's part of my problem here.
So no. So one of the ways that I used to be into jazz, and I realized I couldn't do it. But my teacher had me transcribing John Coltrane's Giant Steps solo, identifying all the patterns that he played for what they call 2/5 progressions. We're not going to get into that today. And then taking each one of those and making an etude out of it. So, you might go. And then you know what I'm saying? And so you practice it like as a strict etude. And of course, when you play an etude, you try to make it sound musical, but it's still just an etude. And then, so that's another trick. actually write out some different things, and then you're expanding, because what we think is just, oh, I'm being natural and I'm following my ear. Most of the time, as another wise teacher told me, what you practice is what you end up playing. So if you always practice the same thing, you're always going to end up playing the same thing. So that's why it's good to force yourself to find different things to practice, because you're expanding your repertoire of things you play. So you can try it. So now I've given you two possible ways. There's many more solutions, but just being aware of it. And then also, by the way, you might think that when you try it in a different key, all of a sudden different things are going to happen. You'll find that your fingers, unless you're, let's say, a guitar player where it's all kind of systematic, but other than that, you're going to find that different keys put you in different places. Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Okay. Time flies. I'd like to touch. If anyone has to run, let me know. Actually, probably we're near. How long are we scheduled, Lori? I have no time limit. I just want to.
We technically go till 2:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to look at the Bugich Bulgar and apply. We're not going to get the big time to do it, but apply the techniques that we've talked about to that, and that'll leave you something very practical to work on, and maybe we'll have a follow-up. And then after we do that, and we'll do it fairly quickly, it'll probably get us close to 2:30. Then I'd like to open up for questions and answers, and that'll probably take as long as you all want it to take. But does everyone have the Bugich? And let's not get hung up in technical things. If you only have the C copy of it, and if you're a B-flat instrument, we'll just play it in the key that it's written. I don't care, because we're not trying to play together. And we'll bounce it back and forth. Does
Lori,
everyone,
did you manage to get it into the folder? In the Google?
Let me see. Hold on one second. I'm gonna send a URL which should be exactly for that. Sorry, here we go. Try that URL.
Didn't come up.
In the chat window.
I'm looking in the chat.
Oh, that's because I sent it to Lori privately. Oops, I try again. Everyone. Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Try that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Could you mute yourself for a minute, Mel?
Yep.
And here we go. Okay. So everyone's got that chart in front of them? Okay. As I said, for those of you who are concert instruments, great. For those of you who can transpose on site, great. And for those of you who can't, just stay muted and play it as it's written. Because you know me, ultimately I want you to do it in every key anyway. So here's the idea. First thing I would do is I would play the melody. Does anyone have to leave strictly at 2:30? Because even just to go through this fast, it's going to take time. So, sorry, we'll do it fast. We'll do it fast and realize that as long as you understand the technique. We're just going to...
Just so you know, sorry to interrupt, even if you do have to leave, I am recording this so I can, and I'm going to post it on the Facebook site. So you can have it.
Thanks. So here's the first trick. You just got to play the melody. Dun, dun, da, 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 da. I'm going to play it way too fast for you all, but play along, have some fun. 1, 2, here. Sorry. So that would be the first thing you should do. Play the song. Now, the second thing I would always have you do, actually should have been the first thing, is everyone would sing it. Let's just sing it. We'll sing it faster. 1, 2, ready. Yum bum ba da 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 dun dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun dee da 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 dun da 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 da. Da yun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da 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 dun dee da 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 da. Yum ba da 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 ding da 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 ding da 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 da. Yum ba da 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 ding da 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 ding da 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 da. Ba ya da 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 ding da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 da. Ba ya da 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 yan da da ya da 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 yan da 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 da. Ba ya da 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 yan da da ya da 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 yan da 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 da. So that's part 2. Singing it, playing it over. By the way, I wrote this out this morning because I thought it would be a great tune to work on. And I realized I made a bunch of mistakes. I'll correct it and send it to Lori. So you don't have to call me up later on and say, Frank, you made all these mistakes. Yes, I'm acknowledging that. Okay, now here's step 3, and it's exactly what we were doing with our little 4-bar melody. And you notice that for the first section and the second section, it's the same 3 chords that we were dealing with in the other tune, because as I said, those are the predominant chords in Frege. So no surprise. We've already learned it. In fact, this is where we use our brains. We can all do this together. We can even transpose. We're going to do the same exercise. Let's use our root third, fifth third. Let's use our root third, fifth third pattern. And the trick is to keep the form. So here we go. 1, 2, Everyone. Third line. I hope that was fairly obvious because it's the same 3 chords we were dealing with before, just in different amounts of beats. But now we have a very lovely third section which goes to G major, which is a lovely change. The melody is... And so now we have a new arpeggio, a G major arpeggio. Everyone play your G major arpeggios, your A arpeggio if you're a B flat instrument. And so then what we would do starting at measure 13 is the same exercise, arpeggiating, but with these new chords. 1, 2, Aha, that second bar is a little tricky because we only have 1 beat each for those things. So you can't do the whole bop, beep, bum. So you have to go, this is bar 14. What I'm going is G, B, D, F sharp, root third, root third, root. Everyone practice that. Let's just play bar 14 over and over again. 1, 2, bar 14. You could do the same thing where you do third, root, third, fifth. You could do arpeggio up. All your exercises, everything that we mentioned, you go through it. And now, if you look at the very last line, this is kind of fun because there's a way of interpolating the melody and the harmony. Here's the melody of the last line, bar 17. The melody goes. And the chords are, don't worry about that slash chord. That just means that the bass can stay on the D pedal, but the chords are D, G minor, D, G minor. One beat each. So if it's one beat each, then it's very fast. D, G minor. So, and so, okay, it is 2:30. Does everyone understand the technical, not that you can do it now, how I approach this? I take a sheet of klezmer music. I sing the melody, I play the melody. I go through every chord, I play the roots, I play the thirds, I play the fifths. I try to keep it in rhythm, and I do these different arpeggiations, keeping the chords in rhythm. And if you ever, very soon we'll be able to play together again. And you can sit down, any two of you with any two instruments. It's not just like an accordionist accompanying a violinist or something. Any two instruments can play together with one starting on the melody and the other starting on the chords, and then you can flip-flop, you can dance back and forth with each other, and it's really, it's a fun approach, and the job, as Mel said, we might go off, but the thing that you have to always work to keep in mind is the form, and you get the form by having memorized the melody. I'm thinking of, I remember a number of years ago, I learned a very long, very slow, very windy Hasidic niggin, a Hasidic melody, and I taught it one year in London, and it took me so long to memorize it. I transcribed it and I wrote it down, but I couldn't memorize it. And I just did it piece by piece, and I broke it down, and I would do it walking around and singing and things. So Lori, if we ever get a chance to do something like this class again with this group of people, I would ask us to start from the point where everyone has worked on the Bulgar, has learned the melody, has memorized the melody, has learned the chords, and has memorized the chords, and then we start from there. And I'll tell you the last secret, and then open everything up for talking and questions and whatever. But this is how my group, the Klezmer Brass All-Stars, which can include almost anyone who is a Klezmer All-Star, which is all of us. And the way we work is that every tune we want to learn, I make sure that every member of the band knows all these things. They know the form, the melody, the chords, because also different people harmonize the same melody differently, and there's not right or wrong. We have to agree on what chords we're playing. So we come into a song, we have the same chords, we have the structure, we have the melody, and we just start playing. And we can play it, and we can play it over and over, and we don't even have to write out an arrangement because we listen, and all of a sudden the trombonist who was playing accompaniment, she's playing the melody, so I'm going to go and play chords, and it allows you to work in any size group and always make music. All right, let's just do any questions. You know what? It's 2:30, so we're done with the class. Any questions on any klezmer related topic?
Before a question, I'm going to be bold. Could we, and it's more for Lori and you, could we schedule a series of these? This was incredibly eye-opening for me with all the other work that I've been doing because of this pandemic. I would love to be able to do this a few more times. You've just got so much knowledge to give us. I don't know how, and I'm happy to help do the work.
Well,
make it happen.
No one's ever offered that before.
Lori,
Yeah, stop looking at me. I know you're looking at me.
Okay.
Yes. Short answer is yes. Long answer is let's work it out.
Yeah. Do you have contacts for everyone here? If people make sure Lori has their contacts, then
Lori, do you have my email? You do have my email.
Okay, but okay, so she'll work it out. I trust her on this.
Okay, so if you're on the Toronto Klezmer Society Facebook page, I frequently that's where I post my.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Okay.
Well, you and I know how to chat already, so we can.
You know what? And if we do it, we'll do it through the Toronto Klezmer Society. We'll upload this sheet of music in all its transpositions, and we'll say prerequisite for that next class until we go into a different direction. For that class, prerequisite is know the song. Okay.
Yeah, and then maybe we could all record each other and someone who has the knowledge stitch it together.
Yeah, they're all possible. Okay, questions.
Just a question about the change that we practiced. Is the 4-7-1 change like the Klezmer 2-5-1 change?
Yes. Thank you for asking that, Jeremy. Let me it made total sense to me. If there's anyone who didn't make sense to, let me just translate what he said.
Sorry.
No.
The follow-up to that is that specific to Fraigish, or is there like?
Okay, good. I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I have many answers for that. Okay. Let's start just by translating what he said into language that everyone can understand. To use, I am sort of like, I speak different musical languages. In classical theory, they like to talk about, in Western classical theory, they like to talk about the tonic, subdominant, and dominant chords. So you're in C major and the tonic chord is C, and things are supposed to land on C. And the dominant chord, the chord that leads you back to that C, is the G chord, and the subdominant is the 4 chord, the F major, which tends to go to the dominant chord, which goes to the tonic. So 4, F, G, C, or to use numbers, C, D, E, F, G, 4, 5, 1. That's a standard cadence in Western classical music. So you could call it subdominant, dominant, tonic. You could call it 4, 5, 1. In jazz, they found that it's usually hipper, instead of the F major, they use a D minor 7, which I'm moving fast, contains an F major in it. And therefore, D minor 7 is 2. So in jazz harmony, we often call this cadential phrase 2-5-1. And in jazz, since it doesn't always resolve, they just talk about 2 5s, meaning this D minor to G7 in C major. It's called a 2-5, which would normally resolve to 1. And even though no jazz person would call the D minor the subdominant, that's essentially what it is. So the cadential phrase in jazz is 2-5-1. In Fraigish klezmer, indeed, the C minor, the 7th degree, that's what you called it, functions as. It's funny, when we play klezmer in Fraigish, for people who've never heard it, they think that it's supposed to end on G minor, because in Western theory, in minor, they would think of G minor as the tonic. 4, 5, 1. And you try to tell them, well, no, in our mode, actually, this is the home. This is where it resolves. The D phragish, the D major, is the tonic, the one chord. And for us, in this mode, that 7 chord wants to go there. That's where it wants to go. So yes, indeed, in phragish, the dominant is the 7, the subdominant is the 4, and the tonic is the 1, as always. If you go to the first Google Drive, I'm trying to find, okay, the one that we were looking at that said Klezmer modes and harmonies. Does everyone have that up on your screen? We're not going to, I'll just show you that the answer to your question is kind of here. I listed a bunch of Klezmer modes, and as we did in phragish, when I said important chords for Klezmer harmonization, I kind of, without using theoretical language, I showed how those chords function. So then if you go to the second page, the mode of minor, da, 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 and I did E minor, G. And indeed, in one way of doing harmonization in minor is that, again, the 7 chord becomes the dominant. But as, I don't know if I gave the example, at the bottom of that page, we also see that in minor sometimes they just go to a, sometimes they actually go to the 5 chord major, which is not in the mode, but harmonically, sometimes so in minor, sometimes the 7 is the dominant and sometimes the major 5 is the dominant. If you go to the next page, it's Mishaberach, and it shows how in Mishaberach, almost always they actually have a 5 chord as the dominant chord to the tonic. So so that you can look at that page, those pages of Klezmer modes, and see the different ways it functions.
You're referring to the 6th chords here. Use of 6th chords.
6th chords. You mean?
I'm looking at the top of page 3. Use of 6th chords.
Okay, hold on. Top of page 3. I think you're on a different thing. I think you're on a different document.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. I think you're on a different document. It's not page 3. It's page 3, not by going to number 3, but by scrolling down. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's on number 1, but scrolling down, not actually changing the page. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Just scroll down. It's like 5 pages. So yes, indeed, you can look at each of these. But I'd like to say, for those of you who aren't haven't delved into theory, I find the best way to learn this stuff is through the songs. And since we're talking klezmer, listen to songs and analyze the chords. And that's how I derive the answer to your question, is what do these songs do? And how do they generally do it? And that's how I learn.
Could you recommend any of your recordings that we could listen to that will speak to this?
I would say yes. Go to the ones that I'm trying to be least hip and inventive in a funny way.
Which are, because you're usually pretty hip in your recordings.
I would say the Klezmer Brass All-Stars, we have tried to keep the harmony as basic as possible. Especially the Deshikara Capella record. Really I try to keep the harmony basic as possible. But I'm going to tell you, why listen to me? Why not listen to the people I learned it from? Listen to Belf's orchestra, listen to Candel's orchestra, listen to the roots of the music. get it from the source. You know, and I mentioned like Elstein or Candel, who are the big bands. But I would go from them. And really, yeah, if you want to listen to mine, I would say for this basic harmonization, go to the Klezmer Brass All-Star Records. But I'd rather have you listen to the original.
Yeah, well, Elstein is good. Now I've got Dance and the Angels Sing in my head, just from you mentioning that.
Yeah, well, that's funny. I'm sorry, I don't want to sidetrack, but that's in a beautiful mode that isn't used so much. Which is that Ukrainian Dorian, beautiful mode. But that's another point. That's another class. Okay, other questions?
Any talk of there being Klez Canada? I know Eric's working on doing something, so are you scheduled to come up here? Assuming borders open?
My gut tells me that Klez Canada is going to be mostly virtual with maybe some hybrid components. But I don't think, I might be wrong, and I'd be so happy if I was wrong, but I'm going to guess that for all sorts of practical reasons, they're not going to be able to commit. Probably B'nai B'rith isn't going to be able to commit to giving them the campground. So I am going to predict, wearing my, predictor helmet, that we're probably another year away from us live being together at Klez Canada, that this year we'll be doing intermediate things. But I'll tell you what I am sort of pitching to Klez Canada, in a sense, and I should talk to Eric about what he's thinking for Ashkenaz.
I think Eric is hoping to do something for Ashkenaz this year.
But what I'm going to pitch to Klez Canada is that we sort of do, even if the whole thing is virtual, each in our own major cities, let's say Toronto, New York, Montreal, London, and this is hard for the people who aren't in a major city that has a big klezmer community, but for those who are, that we do sort of live distanced outdoor things because it's summertime, and then sort of live stream those as part of it. So if we can't all be together, at least we can be together in subgroups and start, I don't know. I think Michael and Sebastian are really playing with all different options on that.
I could just mention that in Europe, if anyone wants to come to Europe, I'm pretty sure that like last year, there will be a live Yiddish Summer Weimar happening, and there will also be a live Tapis Vert in Normandy.
Yes, indeed, you're right. Tapis Vert.
I know that Frank's invited to that, so hopefully the planes will be going.
And what do you think about London Klez Fest? Any idea? Have you spoken to Gil?
London Klez Fest last year was pretty quick to just put it all online, but I know that Amit and Alan are both very committed to trying to have something live, because it can be outdoors and it can be distanced, and it was last year, and it worked very, very well.
I think part of the reality is that both Tapis Vert and Weimar are smaller. I mean, Klez Canada is 300 people. Tapis Vert is maybe 60 people. So it's easier to keep it distanced.
Well, I mean, Weimar is normally huge, but this year they just did it small.
Yeah, so that is a good solution. I'm thinking that it's probably going to be hybrid. I mean, I'm very disappointed.
I grew up in Montreal, and every organization I was in, when we had a weekend, it was always up at Camp B'nai B'rith. And to be able to, I've never made it up to Klez Canada for various reasons. And to play music around that place would just be a dream for me.
Well, it'll happen. Other questions back on the music itself, though? Comments? Nico, you didn't, I didn't call on you and you didn't say a word. Where are you calling?
Well, I mean, I was going to ask almost the same question that we had before. So I'm, like, my background is like I used to make all sorts of music. I played classical music, and I played in a blues band, and I played in all sorts of different, and then discovered klezmer, not like, and the main connection was that my daughter was playing clarinet and I played the accordion, and then we started with like Eastern European, like Balkan music, and we got into klezmer. But I never, like, or at least for a long time, I didn't speak to any theoretician or something about that. But for me, the appeal of klezmer, I always described in terms of my Western point of view, namely, like in my description, klezmer is so interesting because it stays between subdominant and dominant all the time.
Okay, Nico, can I interrupt you? But you've given me a kind of, you've led me to one of my kind of my soapbox speeches. So if you would allow me.
Let me just finish.
Okay. Yeah.
Because my real question I didn't get to. So you've got this tension between subdominant and dominant, and sometimes you come back to the tonic, and in some klezmer pieces you come back very explicitly, and in others you never come back. Like if you play very so here you're back at the tonic, right? And then you go back and so in some pieces you do, and others you don't. And sometimes there's one of the 3 or 4 parts is back in the tonic. Like in your piece, it's not really back in the tonic because we go to G major now, not to G minor. But in some pieces you do. And so for me, there's that transition between, there's everything between thinking Phrygian and thinking Western, and all these interesting transitions between them. And now it's your turn, Frank.
Okay, but I'm totally with you, and that example you gave is a good one. But here's my soapbox speech. What I love about klezmer, if you've heard this before, I apologize, is that if you look on a map of where klezmer comes from, it is literally the dividing line between what we think of, and these are all charged terms, so don't worry about the terminology. I'm not an idiot about it. But what we think of as the East and the West.
Yeah.
And specifically, and again, I'm overgeneralizing, but we have influences on klezmer from the West, from Western harmony, from Czech and Germanic sources. We have strong influences from the Ottoman Empire of Greek and Turkish music, huge influences, and many from other places down south, Moldova and things. And the point is this: if we were to way oversimplify, and say that Eastern music, Arabic music, Turkic music, is essentially a modal music. It's not about harmony. And Western music, again, oversimplifications, is all about harmony. And you can look at the 500-year history of Western classical music as the development of harmony, starting with tempered scales, working all the way through to atonal 12-tone system, but it's all about harmony, functional harmony, exploiting functional harmony so much that they're sick of it that they had to make a system of 12-tone music that was atonal. So you have these two different attitudes, these two different systems. Klezmer, because of the borderline where we situated when we were in the Pale Settlement, has elements of both. And I love this. And you can hear it more in one given tune versus another given tune, depending on where the tune comes from. And you can also hear it even in the same tune, depending on what approach someone takes to it. And so many songs have the ability to be harmonized functionally or with all sorts of substitutes, or you can play things over one chord. You can play so many klezmer songs over one chord. It is both modal and harmonic. Now, a song like the one that we were just looking at, when you could play the whole first 2 sections. You could do the whole thing over D without any chords at all. But I have to say that Well, actually, you could do that all over a D. So
Yeah,
no,
but still, I mean,
there are some songs I'm thinking of, especially more composed songs. I don't know if any of you know the Dave Tarras song. It's called the Feder Max's Bulgar. The first section is very klezmer and modal, but then he goes. Which is totally harmonized. You can't play that melody without those harmonies. So the point is that's, as a player, the more you study it, the more you learn. Yes, this one cries out for chords. This one absolutely could be modal. And on most of them, you actually have a choice, which is why I said the thing about when I'm teaching my band, it's not I teach them the right chords. I just say we have to agree on chords, because there's so many ways that you could either harmonize or not harmonize them. That the reason that it seems, and it's funny, you were calling that the tonic, which I would so argue against you. It's not the tonic. The tonic is still the D, except that it lands so strongly on it that that G minor feels like the home bass. But then it tells you, right away it's not, you know? So that particular melody kind of tells you something. There's another melody, if we have another class, I'll show it to you. But we can talk about these things. It's really a matter of, at a certain point, it's a matter of aesthetics. You have the choice.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. Like I'm not saying the G is the tonic. I'm saying like it's two alternative ways to describe the harmonic structure.
Exactly.
The interesting thing is that you can do it in both ways, and that you hear, like if you describe it in one way, so then you still hear the other interpretation. And like if you stay all in D minor, still the G minor is sitting in the background. You may never get there, but it's
Is anyone else obsessed with theory other than me and seems like Nico? Lori, are you? So I just have to say something only because I read it this week.
Well, all right, let's put it this way. I wish I could just write a simple melody without obsessing about the chords.
Oh, you wish you could write a simple melody?
I feel like
that's easy. That's easy. Of course, I say it's easy. When you go out, I find I bike more than I walk. I love biking, but if you walk, if you run, if you get away from sitting down at a piano or a guitar or something like that, and you just sing a melody, you know, and try. But I can't. I know what you're saying about getting obsessed, but sometimes I can do that if I just put my body in motion and get away from things and just try to sing things.
I think it's more of like a drummer stigma. Like I need to show off, like I need to prove to people that I'm actually a musician and write some really fab out there chord progressions. But
well, that's okay. I mean, I would love to play. Yeah, but I was going to say something else, but since you got this thing, I don't know if this is going to work. We'll find out. But I got obsessed with an idea yesterday. I've been listening to Morton Feldman. Does anyone know Morton Feldman's music? It's beautiful. It's very minimalist. And he really figured out the trick of how to work in Western music with chords that don't tell you what key you're in. They really, it's like you don't know. They're beautiful, and you know what I'm saying? They're just gorgeous, but they're not in a key. I guess it's kind of atonal, but not in a dissonant way. And I tried to do something like that. So I sat at the piano, and and started to try to find chords that didn't denote a certain tonality. Let me see. Did it work?
Yeah, holy shit, did it work?
Did you hear it?
Yeah, it threw me out of my chair.
Oh, sorry. But here's what I wanted to say for the theory nuts. This is what I wanted. I was going somewhere else. Sorry. So going back to that song that Nico was talking about, which is a very interesting one to analyze this way, the way it kind of, it really wants you to think that it's in G minor, and then no, it's not in G minor, and then, you know, I used to like the Schenkerian analysis. I hadn't really studied it, but I read a couple of things enough to think that I knew how to talk about it. And just this week also, so from Schenkerian analysis, which you kind of reduce it.
Yeah, you just get to all the hits.
Yeah, it kind of reduces it, and then you hear how it keeps on coming back to that G. It really plays with that. That's what's interesting about it. But then I just read that there's a big controversy in the music theory world that, thank God, I'm the academic world. Are you saying yes? Oh my God, someone knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking? How do you know this? So evidently someone wrote a paper slamming Schenker as a racist, and that his musical theory showed implicit racism. And then another theory teacher, who is the editor of the Journal of Schenkerian Studies, came out and overly slammed the authors of the racist Schenkerian. It's this big hullabaloo that touches on all the hot button issues of today in all the stupidest ways, in all the worst ways. So I'm sorry, I couldn't help thinking of this discussion. Do you know more about that? Do you want to say something about that?
No, I don't know more about it than you're telling me. I've just been hearing that the Schenkerian analysis now is like nobody wants to touch it, but before that in academic worlds it was like Schenkerian analysis all the time. But apparently it's like really colonialist and stuff like that, and it's like, well, okay.
I don't want to get into, you know what? I don't want to get into this. I wish we could have another more enlightened talk about how one person pointing out something that is potentially problematic and should be looked at. Start there. Someone points something out, gets translated into, we're not going to talk about Schenker anymore because it's colonialist and racist and we can't talk about it. And to make that jump, and then the other people who over defended and started attacking, and why there can't be, I find these questions fascinating, but it immediately jumps to this insane level of either it's all good or it's all bad, or you can't talk about it, or no, it's like, can we just look at the questions a little bit? But in any case, I couldn't help of thinking of that whole story from Nico's point about it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
I want to see if we're ready to move on. I just wanted to hear a bit about your new record, Ghetto. That's what it's called.
Ooh, thank you. Ghetto songs.
Ghetto
boy. I'm a little bit, I think it's great. I feel really good about it.
Who's on the record?
Oh, it's an unbelievable band and singers. So it features 4 different singers. First of all, the amazing Kareem Suleiman, who won the Grammy last year for Best Classical Vocal Performance. He's an expert mostly in Renaissance and early music.
Is he the guy on The Marketplace?
Nope. Kareem, I worked with Kareem in a theater show, and I thought he was an actor with a tremendous voice. It turns out, no, he's a singer who can also act. He's unbelievable. Just gorgeous voice. And his specialty is, like I said, Renaissance and early music. Our good friend Sveta Kundish, who's everyone knows her from Yiddish World and Yiddish Weimar, and she's also a cantor, but she's an amazing opera and classical singer also. I have my favorite cantor, Yankee Lemmer, who's just, for me, the greatest of the young generation of cantors.
I love him.
Yeah, because he's the man.
So
and
cool.
and Brandon Ross, who also plays guitar, of the band Harriet Tubman and the Black Rock Coalition, and he sings one song on it. So those are the singers, and the band is Brandon Ross on guitar, Ilya Schneeves on accordion and piano and keyboards, Greg August, who's just the most amazing bass player playing bass, Kenny Wallison, who's played with the Klezmatics and Bill Frisell and everyone in the world, Tom Waits, he's the drummer, drums, bass. Marika Hughes is playing cello, and I'm playing trumpet. And I mean, originally it was our friend Francesca Terberg on cello, Zeno De Rossi on drums, and Greg Cohen on bass, but they were all in Europe and I couldn't get them over to the States. So luckily,
is this available now, Frank, or
it'll
soon
be
to be released?
available in 2 months or in a month and a half. And basically what it is it's all songs that either emerged from ghettos or about ghettos of the world. But so it's kind of me curating my idea of a mixtape or a playlist, but with my favorite musicians and with this thematic thing. So it's got music from the 16th century, from Benedetto Marcello and Soleimani Rossi, who wrote in the Venice Ghetto. It's got other Italian music, Italian Jewish music, and Italian non-Jewish music, because it's interesting. Marcello, who is not Jewish, wrote Jewish music, and Rossi, who was Jewish, wrote non-Jewish music. But that's this is all part of history.
What's the
It's got music from the.
No, you were just about to answer what I was just about to ask.
Okay, it's got music from the Warsaw Ghetto. Sveta sings Minuten von Beethoven, which is a song from the Warsaw Ghetto, and Yankee sings a cantorial piece, Retse, which was done by Gershon Sirota, who's known as the cantor of the ghetto, who actually escaped from the ghetto and went back to be with his wife and kid and was killed in the ghetto. So it's got that, but it also has music from the South African townships, music from the Mela, which is the Jewish ghetto in Marrakesh in Morocco, and music from the American ghettos, and that's where Brandon sings.
It's gonna be a hell of a record.
And Brandon sings the song that I grew up with, War, by the band War. The world is a ghetto.
What is it good for?
The world is a ghetto. No, that's a different song. War, huh? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
This is by the band War, and the song is "The World Is a Ghetto." So it's all songs either from or about ghettos, ranging from. And for those of you who don't know, the Venice ghetto, the Jewish ghetto in Venice, is the first ghetto that was called a ghetto. That's where the word comes from. And that was 500 years ago, 5 years ago to be exact, from 1612. And that it was called the ghetto because they said, well, we'll let the Jews live in Venice, but only in this area. And it was basically what we would call, what do we call it? I've lost language. It was an ecological disaster. We have an American name for it, but I forget what it is. FEMA or something. In any case, it was the site of an old copper smelting plant, which is called a ghetto in Old Italian. The iron foundry was called a ghetto. And of course, if you've ever seen that, you know, the ground is like totally polluted. The water is multicolored. You've seen this. So they said, yeah, that's where we'll put the Jews. So, you know, it's like it's urban renewal right away. Find the most ecologically fucked up place. So that's the first place to be called a ghetto. And the word ghetto started getting used for all these places a few hundred years later. That became the word for an enclosed area. And so it's a weird playlist, but somehow for me it all holds together as a record. I mean, probably because it's all the same band, and so it's got a commonality of sound, but it certainly covers a lot of ground.
Can't wait to hear it. My son just hinged on the F word, and now he's dancing around saying it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Frank, the F word Frank. So that's my latest record. I don't know. Other questions about music, or maybe we leave that?
I am off. It's my grandson's second birthday tomorrow, so we're going to have a little happy birthday from the door.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Frank. This was wonderful. Thank you for organizing, Lori. I'm out of here.
Thanks, Lori.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Great session.
On behalf of the Toronto Klezmer Society. Oh my God, sorry, my dad just took my electric guitar and threw it on the floor. 8-year-olds are so distracting. On behalf of the Toronto Klezmer Society, thank you very much for joining us, and everybody had a great time, especially judging by the people who stuck around for 45 minutes, longer than the session. And hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, Laurie.
Sounds like a lot of interest.
Yeah, I just want to encourage that too. So let's make sure we do it again.
Yeah. And like I said, we can, even for people who didn't attend, we can start by saying, have this tune under your fingers, so we can start at a certain point and jump in from there.
Fantastic.
All right. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Lori.
See ya.